She was clutching her daughter's tiny hand, counting pennies for a sandwich at the airport food court, when a familiar voice called her name, the same voice that once made her believe in forever. What she didn't know was that the boy she once loved, who had left with nothing but dreams, was now returning as a millionaire CEO, and fate was about to write a new chapter in both their lives. Amelia hadn't planned on being at the airport that night, but life for a struggling single mom rarely followed plans. Her daughter, Lily, clung to her side, a worn-out teddy bear dangling from her tiny hand, as they walked across the terminal floor with bags that had seen better days. The flight wasn't for another 3 hours, but Amelia couldn't afford to miss it. She had saved every cent she could, cut corners on groceries, and worked double shifts at the diner just to afford the tickets to visit her sick mother in another state. Money was always tight, so tight that even at the food court, she hesitated. Lily's wide eyes had landed on a small sandwich behind the glass, but Amelia's heart sank when she counted the coins in her palm. Just enough for one. She bought it anyway, handing it to her daughter with a forced smile while ignoring her own gnawing hunger. She sat at the corner table, her back aching from long hours of work, her mind clouded by exhaustion, when she suddenly heard a sound, a laugh, deep and familiar, echoing across the busy terminal. She froze. That voice belonged to someone she once knew better than herself, someone she hadn't seen in over a decade. Memories rushed back, raw and vivid, of summer nights, whispered promises, and dreams they once shared under a blanket of stars. Slowly, her eyes turned toward the sound. And there he was, Daniel. Her first love. The boy who once held her heart, who left town with nothing but a suitcase and ambition, now stood just a few feet away. He looked different, older, sharper. His suit alone looked like it cost more than everything she owned. People seemed to move around him with a certain reverence, as if he carried authority in every step. Amelia's breath caught. He was no longer the boy from her past, he was someone powerful now, someone untouchable. And yet, when his eyes scanned the terminal and landed on her, time seemed to collapse. His gaze widened with recognition, his lips parted in disbelief. For a moment, the noise of the airport dimmed, and it was as if only the two of them existed. Amelia's heart pounded. She hadn't expected to see him again, not like this, not when she was at her lowest, struggling to hold life together. She quickly looked away, pulling Lily closer, hoping he wouldn't come over, hoping he wouldn't see the weight of her struggles written all over her face. But Daniel was already walking toward her, his expensive shoes clicking against the polished floor, his eyes locked on hers with the same intensity she remembered from years ago. Amelia. Daniel's voice carried both disbelief and warmth, a mixture that stirred emotions she had long buried. She looked up, forcing a polite smile, the kind she had learned to give strangers when she didn't want questions. Daniel, she whispered, as though saying his name after all these years felt unreal. He looked at her, then at Lily, who hid shyly behind her mother's arm. His eyes softened, but his questions remained unspoken. "I can't believe it's you," he said, sitting down across from her without asking. "It's been, what, 12 years? Amelia nodded, unsure what else to say. She didn't want to tell him about the hardships, about nights she went without dinner so her daughter could eat, or about the man who had promised her love only to abandon her when Lily was still a baby. Daniel studied her face, noticing the faint lines of exhaustion, the tiredness in her eyes, but also the strength that radiated from her as she held her daughter close. He wanted to ask a million things, where she had been, what life had been like, but before he could, his phone buzzed. Amelia caught a glimpse of the screen flashing with an important name, one she recognized from the news. Suddenly, it hit her. Daniel wasn't just successful, he was Daniel Hayes, the CEO of Hayes Innovations, the tech empire that had been all over business magazines. Her throat tightened. He had done it. He had chased the dreams he once told her about, and he had made it big, beyond anything they could have imagined as kids. And here she was, barely scraping by. Amelia wanted to shrink into herself. She felt the gap between them, not just in money but in the worlds they now lived in. She tried to keep the conversation light, asking about his flight, his travels, avoiding any talk about her own struggles. But Daniel saw through it. He always did. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Amelia, are you okay?" She forced a smile. "We're fine." But Lily, in her innocent honesty, looked up at him and said softly, "Mommy didn't eat dinner. She bought me a sandwich instead." Amelia's face flushed with embarrassment, but Daniel's expression changed, shocked, then concerned, then determined. He didn't press her right there, but she could see it in his eyes. He wasn't going to just walk away. For Daniel, Amelia was not just a face from the past, she was the girl who once believed in him when no one else did, the one who had encouraged him to leave town and chase his dreams. And now that fate had brought her back into his life, he wasn't going to let her slip away again, especially not like this. Daniel insisted on buying them dinner, ignoring Amelia's protests. He ordered enough food for both of them, sitting there as if the world outside didn't matter. Lily laughed for the first time all day, crumbs of fries on her cheeks, and Daniel watched her with a warmth that surprised even him. He had always wanted a family, but life at the top had been lonely, filled with boardrooms and deals but no one to come home to. Watching Amelia with her daughter stirred something deep inside him. After dinner, their flight was announced, and Amelia thought that would be the end, that they would part ways again, going back to their separate lives. But Daniel walked with them to the gate, talking easily, reminiscing about their childhood, about the nights they used to dream under the stars. It felt like time hadn't erased their bond, only paused it. On the plane, Amelia tried to focus on Lily, who quickly dozed off against her shoulder. But her thoughts kept drifting to Daniel, sitting just a few rows away in first class. Why had fate brought him back now, when her life was in shambles? She didn't believe in miracles anymore, but part of her wanted to. When they landed, Amelia was shocked to see Daniel waiting outside the gate. "I can give you both a ride," he offered. She refused at first, but he was insistent, and soon they were in his sleek car, driving through the city lights. Her mother's house wasn't far, but the journey felt surreal, her sitting beside a man who was now a millionaire CEO, the same boy who once shared ice cream with her on the hood of his beat-up car. When they reached her mother's small, worn house, Daniel stepped out too, helping with the bags. Her mother, frail but cheerful, greeted them warmly, her eyes lighting up when she recognized Daniel. Over tea, old memories resurfaced, laughter mingled with silence, and Amelia realized that for the first time in years, she wasn't carrying her burdens alone. Daniel stayed longer than he planned, listening to stories, watching Amelia's mother dote on Lily, and quietly deciding something in his heart. Amelia didn't know it yet, but Daniel wasn't just going to leave her behind. He was going to change her life, whether she believed she deserved it or not. The next morning, Daniel called Amelia, asking her to meet him. She hesitated, torn between pride and the longing she felt whenever she thought of him. When she arrived at the cafe, he was already there, waiting with the same intensity in his gaze. He didn't waste time. "Amelia, I know things haven't been easy for you. But I need you to know something. You once believed in me when no one else did. You told me I could make it, and I did. I wouldn't be who I am without you. And I can't just walk away knowing what you're going through now." She tried to protest, insisting she didn't need charity, but Daniel shook his head. "This isn't charity. This is me standing by the girl who once stood by me." He told her about opportunities, how he could help her find a stable job, how he wanted to support Lily's education. But more than that, he confessed the truth, he had never forgotten her. All the money, the success, the fame, it hadn't filled the emptiness he carried since losing her. Tears welled in Amelia's eyes. She had built walls around her heart, walls made of disappointment and survival, but Daniel's words chipped away at them. Over the weeks that followed, he kept his promise. He helped Amelia find her footing, not by handing her everything, but by giving her opportunities to prove her strength. He spent time with Lily, growing close to the little girl who quickly began to see him as the father she never had. Slowly, Amelia realized that the boy she once loved hadn't disappeared. He had only grown into a man who still carried the same heart, now wrapped in success. Months later, standing at another airport, Amelia held Lily's hand once again, but this time, Daniel stood beside them, their fingers intertwined. They weren't saying goodbye anymore. They were beginning a new journey together, not as two people from different worlds, but as a family built on second chances. For Amelia, life had been a series of struggles, but fate had brought her back her first love, not as the boy she once knew, but as the man who had become her safe place, her partner, her miracle. And for Daniel, success finally meant something, because he was no longer alone. He had found the love he lost, and this time, he wasn't letting go. Sometimes life brings people back at the exact moment we need them most. Amelia thought her story was one of loss, but fate showed her it was really one of second chances. If you believe love, kindness, and hope can rewrite any destiny, Share this story with someone who needs it today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Vibes for more heart-touching stories that remind us all, miracles do happen when love refuses to give up.